Cheatham County Archives. And once again, those from the state, if you raise your hand and identify yourself, I met you earlier, I saw you coming through. If you tell who you are, what you do with the state, you're with us today.
Not me.
I'm Myers Brown, and I'm Director of Archival Technical Services at the Tennessee State Library.
Awesome. Got one more there.
I'm Sarah Baxter, and I work in the Archives Development Program, and we help counties do exactly this.
Awesome.
And I'm Nat Taylor, also Archives Development Program.
Thank y'all so much for being with us today, coming out. I hated that Secretary Hargett couldn't be with us today under the Secretary's reign. Of course, y'all got a lot going with not only archives and libraries, but elections. Go back and tell the Secretary, I promise, there was no Russian influence in the archives.
It took me a second.
Glad you got it. I'll keep my day job though, I promise. Again, thank y'all for being here. I've seen several of our local commissioners and elected, David Anderson, Commissioner 1st District, also our Chairman of the County Commission, Donnie Jordan, who served over the years as the Director of Schools, the Chairman of the County Commission, Commissioner, and also served as Interim Mayor. So he knows it all.
How old I am yet.
We already know.
Just stick you in the archives and leave you there. So, good to have Chairman Jordan with us today. Also, Pat Smith is here somewhere. He's our Register of Deeds elected official. I'm looking around real quick to make sure I haven't seen some other elected local person. Thank y'all so much for being with us today. This is indeed an honor, and it brings together 2 years of work and effort and planning by a lot of folks in the county. And I want to thank the County Commission. I want to thank, first off, Pat Smith. He worked with us on getting the resolutions together and the funding resolutions together. We now have funding when somebody registers a record with the county. We get $5. It comes to support this, so it's not coming out of your tax money. It's not coming out of property tax, please. Please help me get the word out on that, because it's like, you had to have it 14 cents, you had to have that swanky archives down there. No, it came from those fees. We're very appreciative of the County Commission working with that to make that happen for us today. And once again, I want to say that when this started, what you're standing in, you would not be able to stand here. This was, to be polite, I'll call it an organized landfill on pallets. Because that's basically what it was. Over the years, it would seem like a good idea for us to have an archives, and people talked about it, and people thought about it. Maybe somebody prayed about it, I'm not sure. But anyway, we inherited it 2 years ago, started to work on it. By getting the funding and the resolutions together in support of the County Commission, we had the room here, and I got to also point out Ms. May Linger with the library here, who helped us not only for the room and making sure we had the room here, which was originally designed as an archive some 20 years ago. As you can tell, Cheatham County was thinking about it 20 years ago. It just took a while to come through. But May has been great working with the library, and also Walter, our archivist. Where's Walter? Walter,
We have other members of the Public Records Commission here. Our genealogist, Rosemary Klein. Our county historian, Lisa Walker, is here. And I think Connie, who may not be here, Connie Mayo, is also on the Public Records Commission.
She serves on the work, and she's also County Commissioner. Not here with us. But yes, Public Records Commission worked hard on this to get the resolutions through and support. So thank you so much for that. But if you did not see where we started 2 years ago and where Walter started with this room 2 years ago with all the organized, whatever it was, piled down here, to see this now, you don't fully appreciate it. But he's got everything organized, ready to go. But Miss May, he was working with the library and did incredible jobs organizing things. Of course, he has a love for history. We both go back to the Wayne Darrell history class about 40 years ago. We have a love of history, and so once again, he has a love for Cheatham County, a love of history. It's a perfect match to be an incredible archivist. His focus and drive on this to make this work and make this happen for Cheatham County. But May allowed him, he was working with the library, she allowed a lot of library hours to be used down here, because until we had a year of knowing how much that fee would generate off the records, we didn't know how much money we would have to operate the archives. But now we have it set up with its own budget. The archivist is in place, so we are moving forward with this. And so once again, it's a great day, fantastic turnout. Also want to bring your attention on the wall here. Of course, this is Mr. Brinkley too, which is he kept his day job too. Mr. Bud Hollums. And this has been such an honor. I feel like he's with us in spirit, definitely here today, because growing up, I didn't know of anybody who had more love of history in Cheatham County than Bud Highlands. He was just an incredible man, and he did so much more than just the history. He was the historian for the county for like 3 or 4 decades. I think it was 40 years.
Something like that.
40 years. 40 years. So we're having our 40th year class reunion, me and Walter this year, and Miss Jenny back here in the back. 40 years.
Not me,
Congratulations.
I'm
No,
younger than
the record speaks for itself. And Miss Lisa's part of the class too. So, but Mr. Bud, like I said, for 40 years was a historian for the county. He also worked with veterans before we had a VSO. It was purely a volunteer position, but he helped veterans throughout this county. I've heard several talk about how he helped them. And I know I'd see him often down at Tucker Emerson building, that little conference room, helping them with paperwork and all. Just an incredible man. I'll tell a quick story about Bud Highlands so you kind of get a feel for if you didn't know Mr. Highlands. But I used to have a little newspaper up in Pleasant View, and I wrote we bought a property up there which used to be the Old Town Bank on Main Street. And it was the bank from like 1919 until 1931. And of course the Depression hit. Well, there's this real nice lady up there, Mary Ellen Walker, this is probably back in the 80s, wrote this nice history of Pleasant View. But it was very nice. And so she wrote about the town bank, that it went out in 1931, but none of the investors lost any money. Oh, well, that's nice. Well, the next time I saw Mr. Highlands, he was down in Jail Alley. I was walking up the alley and he was walking down. He stopped me and corrected me real quick. Not only did people lose money, he was listing the people who lost money at the bank. So he was very much offended that we got the history wrong. Thank you, Ms. Walker's word for it. But the thing I found out about Mr. Highlands was incredible. He said, "Let history stand where it stands. Don't lean it. Don't try to interpret it. Don't try to rewrite it. Just let it stand and stand on its own." And that was such a great lesson from Mr. Highlands. And we have several members of his family. Ms. Janice, if you would introduce yourself and your family with us today. It's such an honor to have y'all with us.
Okay, well, I'm Janice Howells Wilson, and this is my husband Philip, and this is my sister Jamie. Jamie? Yeah. Bud's daughter too. Yeah. This is my oldest daughter, Jenny, and her husband Rodney, and their children hiding back here, Christopher, Philip, and Ruby. And then my other daughter, Susie, is right over there. And beside her is my niece, Jamie's daughter, April. And my brother-in-law, Gary, Jamie's husband, is hiding in the hallway. So, and I'm kin to Evelyn, too, Evelyn Winters.
So, incredible turnout of the family. Thank y'all so much, and thank you so much for what Mr. Bud did for the county over the years. It's such an honor that this will be named after.
Well, thank you for naming it after him. We really appreciate it.
Oh,
And
yes.
Jamie, that's got my name on it over there, but Jamie actually wrote that. And I just added a little bit to it and gave it to Walter, and I guess he thought I wrote it because I gave it to him. So Jamie gets credit for that. He's gonna add her name to it, right?
I gotta tell you a little story about Daddy that was recent. When all this started coming out, we were looking for pictures and stuff. I found some papers of Daddy, and he did a lot of genealogy work. And of course, this was before computers and all that kind of stuff. I mean, he even got a letter from Germany, somebody over in Germany trying to look up a family tree. But on the side of some paper, he wrote, "I wonder if I could charge a fee for this." So whatever he did for nothing.
Probably wonder if occasionally yourself.
Lee, one of those children that they had. It was his last name, I think his name was David Lee, but it was something Lee. He told me, he said, "You wouldn't believe how many hours I was on your front porch talking to your daddy about my family." So I really appreciate hearing that too.
Well, it's, again, thanks for all your family mean to Cheatham County, Mr. Bud.
Well, thank you.
And such a positive impact continues on today. Once again, welcome to the archives. We now have a place where records go and they'll stay. And the other thing I want to, because I've had several people go, "Well, I don't understand why we need an archives." And I'll tell you why, is because I've heard stories of records of Cheatham County showing up in yard sales over in Montgomery County. And we got the Montgomery County archivist here. If y'all see that in Montgomery County, please send it back our way. But the other thing, one of the first trips we took, Pat Smith and I had the opportunity to go up to Robertson County for their archives. And the archivist there was telling a story because she had some Cheatham County connections of actually years earlier coming over to Cheatham County and finding Cheatham County records in the old schoolhouse up on Bell Street. And said it was cold weather, snow was coming in, the roof had caved in, snow was coming in on these records and that sort of thing. And so, and there's no doubt we have lost records. And so that's sad, but the good news today is we now have a place, we have a way to keep records going forward. So 100 years from now, they'll not know we were all here today talking about this, but they will have the records for the next 100 years in place each and every time. And that we all can be proud and thankful for. It's a proud day in Cheatham County. Every day's a proud day in Cheatham County, but this is a little bit special proud day to know that the archives are open up and rolling today. I won't take up any more time. We do have our state representative, Mary Littleton, here. You're short like me. I look like her. She has 2 words. Thank you.
Well, first off, I really want to thank you for letting me be a special part of this day. I do remember coming with Secretary Trey Hargett to present grant money, and I think we had some chairs here, and the boxes were up. You couldn't even get in this room. So quite an accomplishment, and thank y'all very much for all the hard work that you have done to make this possible. There's nothing like our history. We need to keep our history, know where we come from, and this is the perfect way to do it. So I have a proclamation in honor of Mr. Hallam. I'd like to read that, if that's okay. Where it is fitting that the members of this legislative body should pay a special tribute to those endeavors that preserve the history of Tennessee. And whereas one such estimable venture in the Cheatham County Archives, which will celebrate its grand opening and hold a dedication ceremony on August the 3rd, 2019. And whereas located in the lower level of the Cheatham County Public Library, the Cheatham County Archives will be dedicated to the memory of James Baker Bud Hallams, who was the first historian for the county and who served in the role for 40 years until his passing in 2005. And whereas Mr. Hallam was a lifetime resident of Cheatham County and a 1937 graduate of Cheatham County High School, and he honorably served in the United States Army as a member of the 36th Infantry Division 7 Army during World War II and received a Battle Star for his heroic efforts in the Battle of the Bulge. And whereas upon his return home, Bud Hallams worked for the Tennessee Department of Employment Security for 39 years until his retirement in 1947. He joined the American Legion Post number 40 and held a number of leadership roles throughout the years. And whereas Mr. Hallam was appointed Cheatham County Historian in 1965, for the next 40 years, he saved documents from being destroyed, helped people research their genealogy, and wrote many articles about the county, which appeared in a number of publications. And whereas the Cheatham County Archives will continue Mr. Hallam's work by supporting and providing public access to county government records and historical documents, which continuing to collect and preserve historic documents, photos, and materials. And whereas both citizens and visitors alike are fortunate to have access to the Cheatham County Archives, and we are pleased to recognize the explanatory new facility and this special occasion. Now, therefore, I, Glenn Casta, Speaker of the House of Representatives of the 111th General Assembly of the State of Tennessee, at the request of and in conjunction with Representative Mary Littleton, do hereby proclaim that we congratulate the citizens of Cheatham County on the grand opening and dedication of the Cheatham County Archives and extend our best wishes for every continued success. So he was a great man, not just a historian. I mean, this is a whole wealth of information here of what a great man he was. So thank you to the family, and we appreciate you being here. And thank you.
Thank you, Representative Golden. Ms. May had some words for Walter.
For Walter, yes.
And let me just say real quick, I gotta tell another story on Walter. I met Walter when we were freshmen in high school, okay? And I'm glad Drama Mama Joyce Mayo is here with us today because she had an all-school play, and we were freshmen. We were freshmen, and we got cast in the all-school play. I had like 4 lines as Sam Craig in our town, and Walter was a dead man in the cemetery. He was With that, I'll turn it over to Ms. May.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. I have something written by Walter that he wanted wanted me to read to all of you. He just didn't want to read it. Being a librarian, I don't mind reading to people, so I'll do that for him. I'm happy to do that. We want to welcome you to the grand opening and dedication of the Cheatham County Archives. Cheatham County finally has a permanent home for its valuable historical records and other treasures. In addition to the grand opening, we are also dedicating the archives today. The archives are being dedicated to Mr. James Baker Bud Hallams. Mr. Hallams was a World War II veteran and served as Cheatham County historian from 1965 until his death in 2005. He possessed a vast knowledge of Cheatham County's history and its people. We would like to thank his daughters, Janice Wilson and Jamie Maritz, for their support. The process to develop a county archives began in 2017. The room was cluttered and dirty. There were boxes of records sitting on multiple pallets. These records had to be sorted, cleaned, and indexed. There was lack of proper shelving and furniture available for the room. It was often hard and time-consuming work, but it was also very rewarding as the room's layout began to physically take shape. The room you see is the result of that labor. However, this is just the beginning. The archives will grow steadily and progress as time passes. There are many people to thank for the archives becoming a reality. First, there is Mayor Carrie McCarver. Mayor McCarver was the major proponent in getting the archives established and funded. He remains a staunch supporter of the archives. Dr. Wayne Moore, Myers Brown, Sarah Baxter, and Nathaniel Taylor of Tennessee State Library and Archives have provided invaluable help in processing the records and offered continual support throughout the archives development process. We would also like to thank the Cheatham County Library Board, the Red River Regional Library staff, our own county library staff, and Janet Walker, Director of the South Cheatham Library in Kingston Springs, for providing much needed support in many ways to the archives. In addition, we thank Paul Mayberry, who volunteered to type the county court notes and assisted with sorting records, and the county maintenance department for moving and constructing shelves and removing unwanted items. Finally, there are those who provided us with their moral support, which was often needed. We thank the Cheatham County Elections Office staff, Pam, Jennifer, and Dana, just down the hall, Joyce Mayo, Faye McDonald, Clayton Walden, and Sarah Andrews, who listened to our issues as they arose. We appreciate all who have shared this special day with us. The opening is what we hope will start a great service to Cheatham County. We serve the entire county and anyone who has an interest in its heritage. Thank you all for your support. Walter Pitt, Archivist.
Again, thank y'all so much for coming out today and celebrating with us this great start of things to come in the archives. This is just the beginning, as Walter pointed out. There are refreshments down the hall. Take your time, look around, any question you have. Of course, Walter is here, or if you have any questions of any of us, let us know. But again, thanks again for your support and coming out today and supporting Walter and the archives for Cheatham County. Thank y'all. Y'all have a great day and go.